Hi guys, it's Kelly Taylor here, and I am back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today I am doing the Cozy Christmas video hop, so there's much more to see here besides just what I'm showing you. We'll get into the details of that in a minute. Today we're going to be using the Christmas Calories and the Very Merry Christmas. We're going to be making some 5x7 cards. These are red rubber, and the super fun thing about the Christmas Calories is the middle comes out, so you can stamp them as a whole background, which is how I'm going to use it today, or you can pull out the middle and stamp just the frame, or pull out the middle and stamp just the sentiment. So forever ago, it was probably like 10 years ago, there was this kind of like faux chalkboard look that was really popular, and I thought these would lend themselves really well to that technique. So because they are red rubber, when I use my Misty, I am going to pull out that foam insert because the red rubber has the foam built into it. So I'm just going to kind of snug this down into the corner and then go ahead and treat this with my anti-static tool, ink it up with our Brilliant White pigment ink, and then stamp it. I like to stamp mine twice just to make sure I have good coverage, but if you have a new ink pad, maybe you only need to do it once. I need to re-ink mine. So anyway, today is part of the Cozy Christmas video hop. I will link below to your next stop on the hop. We are doing 2 giveaways for 2 $50 gift cards drawn from the comments on the hop. So make sure you leave some love as you're going through. And, there's tons of inspiration for you to check out. So here, with this technique, you can just stamp down with the white pigment ink and then just leave it like this. I am standing up to get good pressure on my stamp. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I find it difficult to push on it while I'm sitting. So anyway, the first variation of this is you could just leave the pigment ink to dry, to not do any of the heat embossing. I like to do the heat embossing. I like the kind of the bolder white on the black. So I'm using a white detail embossing powder after, like I said, I've treated it with my anti-static tool. And then I'm going to heat set that until it is nice and smooth. So the other thing that I did want to mention during this hop is Honeybee is having a 10-year event, which is actually an in-person event. I don't know if you saw it on the live the other day. Very exciting. And it's going to be held in Lebanon. That is the birthplace, the home place of Honeybee Stamps in Oregon. So here, this is me doing the same thing to the other one. What you saw me do before was just take a dry microfiber cloth and just kind of buff over the top of it. Once it's dry, you want to make sure, I shouldn't say once it's dry, heat embossing isn't wet, but once it's cool, you want to make sure that you wait to do that, because if you do it while the heat embossing is still hot, you can smear it. And then we're going to do the same thing for the Christmas Calories. This one is not quite as large as the Wishing You, or the Very Merry Christmas, but it still does lend itself to the same kind of 5x7. And I am going to trim down my black cardstock panels so that I can have a like a nice wood kind of, I call it wood, but like a craft border. But anyway, they're having an in-person event. Space is limited, but they're also offering some payment options. So I will link that below if you're interested in checking that out. That is going to be March of 2025. I believe it's the 28th and 29th. But anywho, I am super excited because I am going to be there teaching. So very, very excited about that, to be able to get to meet some of you guys. And obviously see, my friends from Honeybee, a lot of the designers on this team, will be there as well. And then Lisa and Kelly and Melissa. So very exciting. So here I'm just showing you that I am trimming this down so that I can mount it on some craft cardstock. I am going to do a little zhuzhing of the cardstock beforehand. So I chose a lighter brown that's a little bit warmer, and then a darker brown that's a little bit cooler. And these are kind of going to work together. There is not any rhyme or reason to how I'm adding the shading. I just knew that I wanted to have some variation in the color of the frame, just to make it more interesting, because this technique is pretty quick. That's why it's great for, bulk Christmas cards, because it's pretty fast. You can kind of knock things out, really quickly and still have a super cute Christmas card to send. So first I went around, I think it's gathered twigs or brushed corduroy. I'm not positive. Either one of them would work. They're a bit on the warmer side. And then for the darker one, I'm using, I think it's the new one. Is it scorched timber? Yes, it is. Or you could use walnut stain. That one's also a bit on the cooler side. So then I'm just checking that I'm happy with that and how they've blended out. And then we're going to move on to doing the faux chalkboard look. So here you do want to make sure these are trimmed down to whatever size you want them to be before you start doing this. And then I'm just going to use one of our honeybee blending brushes and that pigment ink and just kind of go around the edges to create kind of like that dusty chalkboard look. I know those of us who were in school with actual chalkboards know what I'm talking about. Nowadays, those, I don't even know if they're a thing anymore, honestly. I think they use whiteboards now instead of chalkboards, but what have you. So again, I'm just using this. I'm being light-handed and going kind of around the edge. You can also go in very lightly and just kind of add like some, chalk marks within the design. You're not going to make it so it's illegible as long as you're super light-handed. There's a couple of other things that you can do. If you want to kind of color in some of the areas, you can use a white colored pencil. I went in and just added a little bit of shading to the marshmallows in the little cocoa cup, some of the little dots, the Christmas lights. Like, you can just kind of pick and choose, how you would draw on a chalkboard and, what you would shade with. You could also do this technique, put down the white colored pencil first, and then go in with an actual color of colored pencil over top, and that would look cute too. Here I'm showing you if you feel like you have gotten too heavy-handed with your white pigment ink, and it is too chalky, like the person before you definitely did not clean the chalkboard. Here you can go back in. This is just black soot distress ink. You can go back in, into the center, out to the edges, and kind of push that that chalky look out by adding some black ink over top. And then in order to get the white back onto our embossing, you would just buff it with a cloth. So here you can see that pushes the chalk back to the edges. I did feel like I got a little heavy-handed, so I did end up using both of mine. And then this is just to create some contrast on the edges. I'm going in with a black Copic marker, and this is just going to help it kind of pop off from the craft cardstock. Why couldn't I think of that? So, but I will caution you, I normally do turn them around so that I'm doing it on the back side. Here you can see right there, up there at the top, my marker slipped and I got a little mark on there. So thankfully I was able to go back in and add a little bit more pigment ink over top of it. And that covered it up for the most part. So here I'm just adhering them down flat because I don't know about you, but when it comes to Christmas cards, if I'm going to be mailing them, I want them to be as flat as possible so I'm not having to have them hand canceled or pay extra postage. So I'm just gluing them down flat, mounting them on there. And then I am also going to add just a little bit more detail with my colored pencil, and that's just to kind of darken up the edges with the white colored pencil. Of course, you could do that before you glue them together as well. So yeah, so please continue to hop along for your chance at those $50 gift cards. And then also, if you're in the market for an in-person event next year, we would love to have you, love to see you. I'd love to meet you. So I will link all of that information below as well. And then just continue along the hop. The more videos that you continue on the hop, the higher the likelihood that you will be able to win a gift card. So that is always exciting. So here, that is the finished cards here. I think they're super cute. I know it's an old school technique, but sometimes pulling those old school techniques out of our bag, really give us great results. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.